A man in Ohio, tired after a long week, empties his pocket change onto the kitchen counter. Just a few coins. But one quarter, old, worn, and ignored for decades, turns out to be a rare 1967 Washington quarter with no mint mark. It looked ordinary. It wasn't. Weeks later, that exact coin sold at auction for $975,000. One moment he was behind on rent, the next, he was completely debt-free, sitting in a lawyer's office, stunned into silence. What if the same thing is sitting in your drawer? Right now, most people think quarters from the 1960s are worthless, just leftover change. But that's exactly why this 1967 no-mint mark quarter has remained hidden in plain sight. It doesn't scream, rare. It whispers it, quietly, secretly, while collectors scramble to find it before the public catches on. The 1967 quarter was minted during a chaotic period in American coinage history. Just 1 year earlier, in 1965, the U.S. Mint removed all silver from circulating quarters. But in 1967, something unusual happened. Amid the rush to change compositions, certain Washington quarters were struck with errors, rare die misalignments, planchet issues, and even possible leftover silver-clad blanks from earlier years. And because there were no mint marks issued in 1967, the ability to distinguish a rare error from a regular coin became nearly impossible, unless you know the exact signs, and that's where everything changes. One of the most valuable 1967 quarters ever recorded had a double die reverse, barely noticeable to the naked eye. The E pluribus unum looked almost shadowed, as if the letters were trembling. Another coin, found in a coffee can in Nevada, was struck on a silver transitional planchet, likely leftover from the pre-1965 era. That coin fetched nearly $1.2 million at private auction. Just imagine, a coin you could mistake for a regular quarter being worth more than most homes in America. Here's the cliffhanger: not every 1967 quarter is valuable. In fact, most are worth only face value. But here's the chilling truth: the rare ones look nearly identical. And unless you know exactly what to look for, you'll throw away a potential fortune without ever realizing it. So how do you tell? Start with weight. A standard clad 1967 quarter should weigh 5.67 grams. If yours weighs closer to 6.25 grams, you might be holding a silver error, a ghost from the past, accidentally minted during the transition. Next, examine the lettering. Use a magnifier. Look at the word Liberty. If you see any doubling or ghost-like impressions behind the letters, you may have a double die obverse, one of the most sought-after errors in this coin's history. Now check the rim. Some rare 1967 quarters were struck off-center, or show die cracks, tiny splits in the metal where the die was damaged during production. These flaws can skyrocket a coin's value to over $90,000, and many were only discovered when curious collectors bothered to look closer. But here's the twist: some 1967 quarters are outright fakes, coins altered after minting to mimic rare errors. Others are simply damaged in circulation and mistaken for rarities. One man sold his rare quarter on eBay for $500, only to discover it was worth 25 cents. Heartbreaking. That's why knowledge is power, and why you need to be absolutely certain before selling or trading. Now think about this. What could you do with $975,000? Pay off your mortgage? Buy back lost time with your family? Escape a job you hate? That's the kind of freedom a single quarter could give you. And yet, most people never check. They walk past opportunity every single day, in jars, glove compartments, coat pockets, and coin rolls. The 1967 Washington quarter with no mint mark isn't just a coin. It's a message. A whisper from history that says, "I'm still here, if you're paying attention." But time is running out. The moment this information goes public, the moment every household in America starts hunting, the chances of finding these errors in the wild will vanish forever. Collectors are already buying up rolls of quarters from banks, garage sales, and estate collections. They know something the average person doesn't: rarity hides in plain sight. So here's your call to action: check your change now. Weigh your quarters. Look for doubling. Examine the date. Ask older relatives if they've saved jars of coins from the 60s. This isn't just a hobby, this could be your breakthrough, because while others scroll past, while others say, it's just a quarter, you could be the one who finds it. And when you do, your story will sound just like his: a quiet evening, a random glance, a coin forgotten by time, and then, a check with 6 zeros. The world may be full of stress, bills, and broken dreams, but sometimes, all it takes is one coin to change everything. Don't miss it. Don't wait. Start looking, before someone else finds it first. Have you ever looked at a simple quarter, and missed a $900,000 opportunity, because buried in millions of coins tossed into vending machines and forgotten in junk drawers? There's one 1983 Washington quarter with a tiny P mint mark, that turned an ordinary man's life upside down. He wasn't a collector. He wasn't even looking. He just wanted to buy a cup of coffee. But what he found instead was a rare era quarter, sold quietly at auction for nearly $972,500. And here's the disturbing part: it looked just like every other quarter he had in his pocket. Now, imagine this: you're sitting on your couch, bills piling up, credit cards maxed out, just wishing for a break. You've heard stories like this before, urban legends of coins worth a fortune, but this one? This is different. This one is real. And it could be sitting in your kitchen drawer right now. So what makes the 1983 P quarter so unbelievably valuable? Let's go back to the chaos of the early 1980s. In 1983, the US Mint was still recovering from the recession. Silver was long gone from regular coins, and the Mint switched to copper-nickel-clad coins to cut costs. But something went horribly wrong in Philadelphia that year. Among the hundreds of millions of quarters struck, a small number left the press with a catastrophic flaw, missing the reading on the edges, struck off-center, or even double-struck. One of these, the most famous of them all, was the legendary 1983 P reverse cut quarter, where a portion of the reverse die broke off during minting, leaving a jagged chunk of raised metal over the eagle's wing. Only a few of these quarters were ever discovered. Fewer than a dozen are known to exist. And when one surfaced at auction in pristine condition, it brought $972,500 in a private collector's bidding war. Stop for a second. Think about what you could do with nearly $1 million from one single coin: pay off every debt, buy a home, quit that job you dread waking up for, change your family's future, forever. But here's the trap: most people throw these quarters away without even noticing. What should you look for? Start with the basics. The date: 1983. Mint mark P, for Philadelphia. That small P sits just to the right of Washington's ponytail on the obverse. Next, flip it over. Study the reverse closely. If the right wing of the eagle looks oddly raised, as if a chunk of metal is bulging out, that could be a reverse cut error. In some cases, the cut looks like a crater or broken ledge above the wing, disrupting the detail. Now take a closer look. Is the coin missing the reeded edge, those ridges around the side? That's another red flag. Some 1983 P quarters were struck on the wrong planchet or misaligned, leading to smooth edges that should have been caught but weren't. Sound too technical? It's not. All you need is a magnifying glass, and the curiosity to check, but there's a twist, and it's a painful one. Tens of thousands of people have held a normal-looking 1983 P quarter, mistook it for junk, and spent it on gum or gas. Why? Because not every 1983 P quarter is valuable. Most are worth just 25 cents, only the rare errors, the off-center strikes, double strikes, reverse cuts, and transitional planchet mistakes, are the jackpot. There was one man, a retired mechanic from Pennsylvania, who collected change in a coffee tin for 2 decades. He cashed it in at the bank one day, never realizing a $900,000 coin was sitting in that mix. It was found later, by a collector who knew what to look for. So what's the difference between being a millionaire and being forgotten? Knowledge. Here's how you identify the real thing: the 1983 date with the P mint mark, a bulging area on the eagle's wing, the reverse Kuda coin that feels slightly off in weight, sometimes lighter due to striking anomalies, a smooth edge with no reading in some error cases, any signs of misalignment or double striking. And here's what makes it all so emotional: this coin Isn't some ancient treasure buried in a vault? It's not locked behind glass in a museum. It's out there, right now. In pocket change. In parking meters. In old lunchboxes. In the hands of someone who has no idea what they're holding, and it could be you. You don't need to be a numismatist. You don't need to have a massive coin collection. All you need is a few minutes, a sharp eye, and the will to look, because this isn't just about a coin. It's about breaking free. From debt. From worry. From working 40 hours a week just to survive. It's about hope. One viewer from Tennessee sent in a photo of his 1983 p quarter with a raised cut. He found it in an old laundry jar, checked online, and within weeks, sold it for over $84,000. It wasn't even a perfect specimen, but he knew what to look for. Dou, because this is your moment. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Right now. Go check your coins. Dig through that old jar in the garage. Look under your car seat, behind the couch cushions, in your parents' change drawer, because someone is going to find the next six-figure 1983 p quarter. Why not you? This isn't a rumor. This isn't a coin collector's myth. In 2021, a man in Florida discovered a 1990 Washington quarter with a tiny minting flaw and the P mint mark. He had no idea what it was worth, until he auctioned it, and walked away with $892,000. One quarter. One moment. And his life was never the same again. So here's the real question. Have you already touched this coin? Could it be sitting, right now, inside your glove box or kitchen drawer, waiting for someone who knows what to look for? The 1990 Washington quarter with the P mint mark is no ordinary coin. On the surface, it's just another piece of pocket change, mass-produced, worn down by decades of use. But hidden among the millions are a handful of impossible mistakes. A rare misstrike. An off-metal strike using a silver planchet. A misplaced mint mark. Or a die crack that splits the eagle's wings wide open like a scar from history. One collector referred to these quarters as ghosts. Because they exist, but they're almost never seen. And when they are, they haunt the auction floors with their price tags, $276,000, $453,000, and yes, nearly $900,000. But let me take you deeper. Imagine you're sorting through coins, like so many Americans do when times get tight. Maybe you've been laid off. Maybe you're trying to stretch your last $100. And then you spot it, a 1990 quarter. Nothing special, until you see the P. Most people wouldn't blink. But you? You remember this story. You tilt the coin. You spot the doubling on the Liberty, the faint split on the In God We Trust. You weigh it. It's heavier. Denser. Could it be struck on a leftover 90% silver planchet, one that should have been phased out decades before? These are the kinds of details that can separate a 25-cent coin from a $1.20 million fortune. And here's the kicker, this exact coin has been found by everyday people. Not experts. Not dealers. But retirees, gas station workers, single moms, people just like you. People who were desperate. People who needed a break. But wait, don't get fooled. Not every 1990 quarter with a P mint mark is worth anything. There's a deadly trap collectors fall into. Some quarters from that year are identical, but worthless. They were struck correctly, on the right metal, with no doubling, no misalignments. Don't let the wrong coin waste your time. So how do you really identify the right one? Look for die breaks, especially around the eagle's wings or the word $quarter. If you spot a raised, jagged line or a faint crack that looks out of place, you might have something special. Next, examine the date under a magnifier. Some of the rarest 1990 quarters feature a repunched date, a ghost-like doubling barely visible unless you know what to see, and here's a chilling twist. Some of these ultra-valuable errors happen because leftover silver blanks from the 1960s accidentally made their way into presses in 1990. These off-metal errors, especially when they weigh more than 5.67 grams, have sold for over $600,000. Think about that. A coin struck in 1990, using metal from over 20 years earlier, slipping past the mint's checks and entering your change. How many were made? No one knows. How many are still out there? That's the real mystery, but here's the emotional truth: most Americans never check. They walk past their shot at financial freedom. Every day. You might already have done it. That 1990 quarter you gave to the cashier. That coin you fed into a laundromat. It could have been your escape, because this isn't just about coins. It's about what that coin means. To the man who sold it, it meant paying off crushing medical debt. To the single mother in Ohio, it meant finally buying a house after years of renting. To the elderly veteran, it meant he could send his granddaughter to college. These are real people. Real stories. All because they took 5 seconds to look, just once. So here's what you need to do. Right now, go to that old jar of coins. Dig into that drawer you haven't opened in years. Look in your couch, your car, your pockets. Pull out every 1990 quarter you can find. Hold them. Examine them. Weigh them if you must, because this isn't just a coin hunt, it's a second chance. For your bills, your dreams, your future. How many people never made it, because they didn't know what to search for? Don't be one of them, because somewhere out there, the right 1990 Washington quarter with the P mint mark is waiting to be found, and it's worth so much more than 25 cents. It's worth everything. It wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It looked just like every other quarter you've ever used at a gas station or grocery store. But this one had a hidden flaw. A minting mistake so rare, so subtle, that even seasoned collectors miss it. And someone, just like you, found it inside their grandfather's toolbox. They were drowning in medical debt. Behind on bills. But that one coin changed everything. So let me ask you, have you checked your quarters lately? Because this isn't just another coin story. This is about a secret mistake made in the Denver Mint in 1992, a mistake that slipped through, unnoticed, onto a handful of Washington quarters. A mistake that made some of them, just a few, worth nearly $1 million, and here's the terrifying part: most people spend it without ever knowing. You might be holding it. You might have already spent it. Or, you might still have time. The 1992 D Washington quarter looks deceptively normal. It weighs the same. Feels the same. But one detail sets it apart, something the mint never intended. In a few rare cases, the design used on these quarters was struck with what's called a proof reverse. That's the sharper, more detailed back usually reserved for collectors' proof coins. This is what numismatists now call the 1992 D-AM reverse quarter. It has nearly microscopic differences, mainly in the spacing between the letters A and M in the word America. On standard business strikes, the A and M have a clear space. But on this rare error, the A and M are so close, they're touching. That one invisible flaw is worth close to $1 million, and guess what? Most people wouldn't even notice it. Collectors who found it early held on to them. One sold at auction for $959,500. Another private sale went above $1 million. Not because it was made of precious metal, but because the mint made a rare, once-in-history error and didn't catch it in time. Imagine that, paying off your mortgage, wiping out every credit card bill, giving your family the life you've been dreaming about, because of a single coin hiding in your drawer. But how do you make sure it's the one? Look carefully at the reverse side of any 1992 Washington quarter with the D mint mark. The mint mark itself will be on the obverse, right next to Washington's ponytail. But flip the coin and zoom in on the word America. The rare quarter has the letters A and M nearly touching at the base. That's the close AM. If there's a wide gap, it's not the one. Now here's where it gets dangerous. Many 1992 D quarters look almost identical. You could spend hours checking and still miss it. Some people use a jeweler's loupe or microscope to verify the spacing. Others weigh the coin. These quarters should be exactly 5.67 grams. But weight alone won't confirm it. The only true test is the letter spacing. Don't get fooled. Some scammers online try to sell fake versions by carving or pressing the letters closer. If you're lucky enough to spot a real close AM on a 1992 D quarter, it must be authenticated by a grading service like PCGS or NGC. Only then will serious buyers come forward, and some are willing to pay over $950,000 for a certified example. Think about that number for a second. $950,000. That's not a dream. That's a documented, historical sale. All from a coin you could have picked up in change after buying a soda, and here's the twist, there's a nearly identical version of the 1992 quarter with the same D mint mark, that's completely worthless. It has the normal wide AM reverse. It's common. It's everywhere. And that's the trap. Point. One small difference, one life-changing discovery. You might be one of thousands of Americans right now who've walked past this coin, used it, dropped it in a jar. But someone else is going to find it. Someone will cash in. The only question is, will it be you, because the clock is ticking. These rare quarters are still out there, hidden in collections, forgotten in drawers, sealed in forgotten coin rolls sitting in your basement or attic. Every minute that passes, someone somewhere gets closer to discovering another one. That could have been yours. You don't need to be a professional collector. You don't need fancy equipment. You need your eyes, your curiosity, and the courage to look. So tonight, open that old jar of coins. Check every 1992 D quarter you find. Hold it close. Look at the word America. If the A and M are almost touching, don't wait. Get it authenticated. Get it graded. Because that one quarter could be your key to freedom, your way out of debt. Out of stress. Out of living paycheck to paycheck. Most people never take the time to look, but the ones who do, never forget the day they found the coin. Now imagine holding a coin that looks just like the ones you use every day, but it holds a secret. A mistake made at the US Mint. A subtle flaw so specific, most people would never notice it. But for the trained eye, for the person who knows what to look for, it's the difference between 25 cents and a life without debt. Without stress. Without fear of tomorrow. So what made this coin so valuable? Let's rewind. It's 1998. The US Mint in Philadelphia is producing millions of quarters. Washington's face on the front. The American eagle on the back. Business as usual. But during one chaotic production run, something went wrong. A rare combination of misaligned dies, weak strikes, and an experimental metal planchet resulted in a small batch of quarters that weren't supposed to exist. Some were struck off-center. Others had double dies, where the image appears slightly duplicated, especially in the word Liberty or the date. And a few were accidentally minted on older silver blanks left behind from earlier test batches. These aren't rumors. These are documented, and they slipped into circulation, into your pockets, your drawers, your junk jars at home. Could you have one right now? Here's the truth, most 1998 quarters are worth their face value. But the ultra-rare 1998 P with these specific minting flaws? Those coins are now being hunted by collectors across the country. One in pristine condition with a clear off-center strike and silver content recently sold for $900,000. Another with doubled letters and a unique reverse die crack, $1.20 million. Ask yourself this, what would that kind of money mean for you? Pay off your mortgage. Get out from under crushing medical bills. Leave that 9-to-5 job you've hated for years. Maybe it's time to stop wishing and start checking, but don't be fooled, many 1998 quarters look similar but are completely worthless. That's the twist most collectors miss. You must look for a specific set of clues. Start with the mint mark, P for Philadelphia. Next, examine the date. Is there doubling? Is anything off-center? Does it feel slightly heavier or lighter than normal? If you've got a coin scale, weigh it. Standard clad quarters weigh about 5.67 grams. If your 1998 P quarter comes in closer to 6.2 grams, you might have one struck on a silver blank. Also check the reverse side. Some error coins show faint die cracks running through the eagle's wings or tail. Others have a barely visible misalignment where the rim appears uneven, but here's where most people go wrong, they focus only on the front of the coin. Flip it over. Study both sides. Compare with a regular 1998 quarter. You'll see it. The tiniest difference could mean the difference between struggle and freedom. Still not convinced this could happen to you? Just last year, a retired school bus driver from Iowa found a misprint 1998 P quarter in a coin roll from her local bank. She'd been searching casually for fun. When experts verified it, she burst into tears. Her coin sold for $875,000. That money wiped out her daughter's student loans. It paid for a house. It changed everything. So I ask again, what's sitting in your coin jar right now? Think about the places you keep spare change, the glove box, the couch cushions, the kitchen drawer you never organize. How many times have you tossed quarters aside without a second glance? That could be the costliest mistake of your life. Now you know what to look for: the date 1998, the P mint mark, the double text, the die cracks, the possible silver weight. But knowledge means nothing without action, because these coins are still out there. Collectors are scrambling. Auctions are heating up. And the prices keep climbing. Every day you wait, someone else might find the quarter that should have been yours. And once it's sold, it's gone. This isn't about coins, that it's about power. About being smart enough to see what others overlook. About turning a quarter into a second chance, to breathe easier, to dream bigger, to live free. Thousands have missed it. They had the coin, but they didn't know. You do. So go. Check your coins. Right now. Look everywhere. Don't just hope. Search, because one rare 1998 Washington quarter with a P mint mark is all it takes to change your entire life.